Hi, Tony Selzer here. We got another treat on the line. The intersection of sales, marketing, and technology. We always are uncovering the newest best practices, ways to grow your business. And here's a great one. How many of us sales managers have been out there trying to get our guys to parrot what we do, to use the stuff that we've got? How do we try to take that genius when someone's made that breakthrough, that point of illumination in the field where they really get it, the customer and the buyer, and we're not selling anymore, we're helping people make good decisions, right? We've got a technology company that's out there here to do it. Paul McGhee is the founder CEO of Sharper AX. They've built a solution to share that intellectual property, to get the best practices to the people on the street, the ones that are moving the product. Paul, what gave you this idea for this?
Well, the idea of role playing was, having had a career as a rep, as a sales manager, VP of sales multiple times, and trying to make my reps successful and giving them what they really needed to have credibility and move prospects. Role playing was really the only thing that really consistently moved the needle. Role-playing situations, role-playing responses, role-playing stories, and that gave them confidence. It gave them the words to actually show up and deliver value in conversations. The problem was, and then after having my own teams and doing a bunch of startups and growing them very quickly, I spent 6 years consulting and building playbooks for mostly software companies that were growing quickly, like BrightRoll and Workday and Rocket Fuel and companies like those that were on hyper-growth path. And role play was the only thing that was really, not the only thing, but it was a real big mover. But getting them to sit down and consistently do it was hard, and I couldn't get it done. So I needed to figure out a way to virtualize role playing, operationalized role playing, and so that's why we built Sharper X.
Well, and I just want to comment to these software companies that are looking to accelerate growth. Any company that's really looking to accelerate growth, we're on the front end of the funnel there. So Paul, I can give you data that says that the average lead cost right now is between $450 and $1,550 in B2B. In technology, it's higher on that side, right? We're seeing it upwards, and we just had a client the other day, $2,700 a lead, right? And you hand that lead to somebody, and they don't know what to do with it. So you get a 25-30% conversion. Role playing is the one way that provides the greatest impact in the sales funnel that allows conversion to go up, right? I mean, this is the one thing. I was a trainer, and as a sales trainer, the most we could get is a 15% lift. If you help people show up and act the way they're supposed to act at the moment of illumination, right? You get more balls across the goal line. Not to use such a simple analogy, but that's really what you're about, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's two kind of misconceptions going on, I think. So you're talking about $1,000, $2,000 cost to get this lead, but you still have a lot of CEOs that don't understand selling, and they're saying, pick up the phone and call, pick up the phone and call. And it's a quantity game, not a quality game. And the problem with that is that when you pick up the call and you don't know the phone, and you get that guy on the line or that person on the line, and you don't know what you're talking about, you blow up that account. You can't go back for a year or 2 years. So it's kind of interesting. There's an analogy with the civil aviation industry in the 30s, where they thought pilots were born, not made. Right. And the way they trained them was it's like shouting a sales call, hey, watch me fly. I'm pulling back on the joystick. I'm pushing forward on the joystick. And then they sent them up in the plane. And the first application for that was airmail, delivering mail by air. 31 out of the first 40 pilots died. They crashed and they burned. Yeah. But it was still, they're born there. And so you notice it when someone crashes and dies. When a rep gets on the call and they blow it up, they show up, they throw up, and they blow up. Right. No one dies. But what does happen is that rep, they do that a few times, and now their territory is dead to them. They're not going to be successful. So that's the first kind of misconception, is quantity versus quality, I think. Because you're right. It's so hard, and these prospects are so savvy now. They're doing your demos online. They're talking to their network. So you got to show up with real value. You got to show up with real insight.
Well, and they smell the fear. They smell the vibration of your voice, right? You said it. They're sensing that. And that job really has changed, right? I mean, the Dan Pink's book, To Sell is Human. We are no longer the expert bringing the information to the client. We are somebody there that is helping a client make good decisions. Hopefully we're a subject matter expert, right? Which is kind of our whole shtick on things. Hopefully we're the expert. But if you're not delivering and transferring information with conviction and doing it in a way that connects to the person on the other end of the phone or the other end of the meeting, you're not going to make it. And that's why we're seeing such high fail rates. In tech, 1 out of 4 salespeople make it. I mean, that's scary. Which, think about all the leads that guy burned through, all the sunk costs that's there, all that acquisition expense that you've now turning over to the client, which is forcing your product to get more and more expensive, and therefore, diminishing the total market you can go after. And so to spend, $40 a month on a software platform like yours that it is that's allowing and providing so much value at that moment of truth, right? I mean, that's where the rubber meets the road. This is why this is what really kind of created the space for this. How's it going?
It's going great. I mean, the stuff works. We have sales teams that are like doing double the dollars per rep that used it all of 2014. And in the beginning, at the end, they've doubled their sales of the team. And so, it works great. I mean, intuitively, if you've been doing this, you just know it's going to work. But it's a new field, so the success metrics are now just starting to show up to get out of the early adopter phase into the more mainstream days. But the other paradigm besides the quantity quality one that you're kind of talking to of this moment of truth, why isn't there more emphasis on preparing reps for that moment of truth when they have to open their mouths?
Yep.
If you look at how Salesforces invest, they really, in sales training and all that, they really invest in what to do, how to do it stuff. Okay, we need a proposal. Hey, we need DocuSign. We get the contract. We want it to be efficient. You got these tools. Go to meeting. We need to do. So it's the investment. If you think about that seesaw, it's really weighted towards what to do, how to do it. It's not weighted towards what to say and how to say it.
Right.
So that's kind of part of our challenge is getting that seesaw where the allocation towards the what to say, how to say it is equal to the what to do, how to do. Because that's really where that's where you move a prospect.
Yep.
By telling them the story that only you know because you spent all this time as a company with your customers over the years, adding value, learning things, figuring out what works, getting those stories of success, getting those into the salesperson's hearts and minds.
Yep.
That's the critical thing. So then when they're talking to the prospect, they're going to add that unique value that your customer has.
Yep.
So that's, you talked about domain expertise or subject matter expert, but there's also these kind of proprietary stories that your company has that a lot of times don't make it to the reps.
Yeah, nothing sells like a story, right? And nothing you can do really as a sales manager, as someone running a territory, is going to make as much impact. I see these companies spending hundreds of grand, if not millions of dollars on training their reps and getting their reps prepared. But how much money do they spend really on making sure in that window of time where they're there to transfer the conviction, bring the goal line across, and do they enable them to have the tools that they need in order to complete that transaction? I mean, it's really kind of backwards the way we're spending money. Would you agree?
The highest leverage point is the sales conversation. I agree. The elephant in the hallway is all the training we've gotten. It's around it. It's not the conversation itself. Mm-hmm. But there's a reason for that. I think technology-wise, it was only maybe 2 years ago when we're using video to do this. Capturing the right stories, then watching, and then practicing with your webcam yourself. Only 2 years ago was it possible to really, with video, which is heavy, afford the storage, have the bandwidth, and have the prevalence of webcams. Mm-hmm. So there's been kind of this perfect storm to operationalize role playing. So it really wasn't an option even 2 years ago. Too slow or too expensive.
Right, the cloud's changed what we can do, the data. I mean, what I'm seeing is this swing, and I think you guys are on the wave of that. It's this idea that we were going to collect nothing but explicit data, right? I mean, just what are people doing? The historic stuff, the stuff like Salesforce, the software of history, of historic events. And we're moving to software of engagement, right? We're moving to platforms that are picking up the implicit data, the stuff that's in between the lines. And this is a soft skills play, right? If you're in selling, it's all about the soft skills. Why would you think about spending money on CRM even if you're not going to spend money on enabling the guy who's trying to create that transaction and create revenue for your company to happen at that moment of truth? It's kind of a no-brainer, isn't it?
Well, it is, but sales enablement, they're going to roll something out. They want something they can measure, something that their other sales enablement people have done. They're not shadowing reps on these calls and hearing really the uneven quality of these sales calls. I mean, Forrester's saying 90% of them fail. We ask VPs of sales, we sell to VPs of sales. We've asked over 100 VPs of sales on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your average selling conversation? Guess what they say?
3.
5 usually, but it's probably, a lot of them are probably more. So there it is. It's 5 out of 10. The VPs of sales are telling you that, yet they're not making this, and they will. It's like the simulator for pilots. Mm-hmm. You would never get in a plane without getting in a simulator.
Right.
They learned, in 1933 when they placed the order for 10,000 finally after FDR called in the generals. He said, "Stop killing my pilots." Mm-hmm. Then they actually tried the simulator. It'd been there all along. Wow. Now no one would get in a plane without getting a in 5 years, sales, this is like marketing automation was 10 years ago. Yep. The dawn of Marketo and Eloquat, it was like, hey, we're spent half our money, is working. We don't know which half. So a lot of money was spent. That problem's mostly been fixed. Now this whole sales productivity problem, sales acceleration, it's kind of the next festering, wound. And it's going to be fixed. But in 5 years, you're not going to let a rep near a prospect without drilling into batting cages first.
Yeah, amen. So, Paul, one of the things that, I learned as a trainer is that nothing moves the needle like putting people through the process in a safe environment where they can fail, right? I mean, that's what role-playing does. It allows us to fail in that safe environment. We feel the same anxiety. We have similar emotional response as we would in front of a live, but we're not staring down the barrel of a loaded gun, right? We have the opportunity to change that environment and to get better without wasting a prospect or a lead. And that's really what in the end, what you're allowing companies to do. If you can move that needle 2-3%, it's a pretty good ROI event for the companies that have any kind of significant sales team. Is that true?
I mean, you can justify this thing on one last rep washing out. You can justify it on, one additional deal a year. Mm-hmm. You can justify it on getting your first deal, 2 weeks earlier. We've got a customer, they have 27 stories their reps do in their first 27 days. Mm-hmm. They have the demo stories. They got the selling stories, like stories about the industry, the company, the customer, the competitor positioning, the product, the partners. And then they have the evaluation plan stories, how this process should work if you're going to really see all the value. So 27 stories, 27 days. I mean, they have 2 groups, but the group, the SMB group, they're getting their pilots now, like the reps selling the pilot in 2 hours instead of 3 weeks when they let them lose.
Wow.
So, yeah, and the thing you said about safe environment, mm-hmm. It's true. There's been a lot of research on this now, and performing and learning are 2 different threads. It's really hard to learn while you're performing. Mm-hmm. So even the role play, like I used to do and you used to do with Sandler, even the role play around with the peers, there's some performing that goes on there, and so really learning can be hard. I mean, it doesn't work, but we can, and we're doing a lot of times a 2-step where before we do the story workshop, the reps are watching, in Sharper Axe. By the way, Sharper Axe, Abe Lincoln said if you had 6 hours to cut down a tree, he'd spend 4 of them sharpening his axe.
Right. Yeah, I love the name. Yeah, awesome. So they'll practice first, and then we do the role play, and their peers, and so that performing element, they actually kind of know what they're talking about. So sometimes there's even this safer environment where in their home office they're doing 5, 6, 7 practices with their webcam to learn it. Mm-hmm. That's awesome, man. I love the play. you know, I can speak to the pain. If you're got a sales team and you want to move the needle, start doing role play. If you really want to get an accelerant to that growth, then you know, sharpen the axe, right? I mean, sharperaxe.com. It's a great cool technology. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Tony.